stand at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza at dawn on the spring equinox, and you'll witness something remarkable. The sun rises at a precise angle that splits the pyramid's shadow perfectly in half. Coincidence? Perhaps. But when you discover that this is just one of dozens of astronomical alignments embedded in pyramid structures across the globe, coincidence becomes increasingly difficult to accept. Were these structures built as precise astronomical instruments, cosmic timekeepers marking celestial cycles? Or, as more controversial theorists suggest, could they have served even more extraordinary purposes as stargates, or energy focal points connected to forces we don't? We'll examine the evidence, explore the mathematics, and dive into the hidden numerological patterns that ancient architects encoded in these monuments. Patterns that practitioners claim can enhance astrological understanding and cosmic timing. This is Pyramid Alignments, Stargates, or Timekeepers. Let's explore the evidence. Let's start with the most famous pyramids on Earth, the Giza complex outside Cairo, Egypt. 3 main pyramids, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, dominate the plateau, and their arrangement has puzzled researchers for generations. In 1983, engineer Robert Bauval proposed what became known as the Orion correlation theory. He noticed something extraordinary. The 3 pyramids aren't arranged in a straight line or a regular geometric pattern. Instead, they're offset, with the 3rd pyramid noticeably east of the alignment of the first 2. This offset, Bauval argued, mirrors the arrangement of the 3 stars in Orion's belt, Al-Nitak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka. But it goes deeper. The Milky Way flows past Orion's belt, and the Nile River flows past the Giza pyramids, creating a terrestrial mirror of the celestial landscape. The ancient Egyptians called the Milky Way the Nile in the sky, and they associated Orion with Osiris, the god of the afterlife and rebirth. The internal architecture of the Great Pyramid provides even more stunning astronomical alignments. The so-called air shafts in both the King's Chamber and Queen's Chamber aren't ventilation systems at all. In 1964, Egyptologist Alexander Badawi and astronomer Virginia Trimble calculated that these shafts pointed to specific stars as they would have appeared around 2500 BCE. The southern shaft from the King's Chamber pointed to Al-Nitak in Orion's belt, the same star corresponding to the Great Pyramid's position on the ground. The northern shaft pointed to the circumpolar stars, which never set below the horizon, the imperishable ones that the pharaoh's soul would join in eternity. The southern shaft from the Queen's Chamber pointed to Sirius, the star associated with Isis, Osiris's consort. The northern shaft pointed to Koshab in Ursa Minor, part of the Little Dipper. These aren't approximate alignments. We're talking about precision, within fractions of a degree, achieved over 4,500 years ago with supposedly primitive tools. But here's where it gets controversial. Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval have argued that the Giza pyramids encode knowledge of precession, the 26,000-year wobble in Earth's axis that causes the positions of stars to slowly shift over time. They suggest the monuments might commemorate or point to a much earlier date, possibly around 10,500 BCE, when Orion's belt would have been at its lowest point in the precessional cycle. Mainstream Egyptology rejects this interpretation, arguing that while the pyramids definitely show astronomical alignments, they were built when the evidence says they were built during the 4th dynasty, around 2500 BCE. The astronomical alignments served religious and calendrical purposes but don't indicate an earlier lost civilization. What's undeniable is that the ancient Egyptians were sophisticated astronomers. The pyramid texts, inscribed in the pyramids of the 5th and 6th dynasties, are full of astronomical references. They describe the pharaoh's journey through the stars, navigation by celestial markers, and rebirth through cosmic cycles. The Egyptians tracked Sirius with remarkable precision, because its heliacal rising, its first visible appearance before dawn after a period of invisibility, coincided with the annual Nile flood, the foundation of their agricultural cycle. Their calendar was based on this astronomical event, making astronomy not just religious, but practically essential. Now let's address a critical question. How did ancient architects achieve such precise astronomical alignments? The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60th of a single degree. To put that in perspective, that's better than most modern buildings achieve without sophisticated equipment. The pyramid's base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its 230-meter length. The sides are equal to within 4.4 centimeters. This level of precision required knowledge, tools, and techniques that continue to impress modern engineers. So, how did they do it? Several methods have been proposed. Method 1. The circumpolar stars. The ancient Egyptians could have used the circumpolar stars, those that circle the celestial pole without setting. By tracking these stars throughout the night and finding the center point of their circular path, they could establish true north. The stretching of the cord ceremony depicted in Egyptian texts might describe exactly this process. Method 2, the Indian circle method. This involves placing a vertical pole and tracking the shadow cast by the sun at different times of day. By marking where the shadow falls at equal times before and after solar noon, you can draw a line that runs precisely east-west, and therefore establish north-south perpendicular to it. Method 3, the sun's shadow on equinoxes. On the equinoxes, when day and night are equal length, the sun rises precisely in the east and sets precisely in the west. With careful observation and marking, this provides another method for establishing cardinal directions. For achieving level surfaces, the Egyptians likely used water channels. Water always seeks its own level, so by cutting channels into the bedrock and filling them with water, they could mark a level surface with perfect accuracy. But here's what's truly remarkable: the mathematical knowledge required. The Great Pyramid's dimensions encode several important mathematical constants. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2p pi, the ratio you'd get from a circle's circumference to its radius. This could be coincidental, or it could indicate knowledge of this fundamental mathematical constant. The pyramid also appears to incorporate the golden ratio, phi, approximately 1.618, a proportion that appears throughout nature and that ancient cultures considered sacred. The slope angle of the Great Pyramid, approximately 51.84 degrees, creates golden ratio proportions in the pyramid's cross-section. Now, some researchers have noted something fascinating about these mathematical relationships and their connection to astronomical cycles. A 19th century text on architectural numerology, the Canon, by William Stirling, identified what he called cosmic constants, encoded in pyramid architecture. Mathematical relationships that supposedly corresponded to planetary orbits, lunar cycles, and other celestial phenomena. According to this interpretation, the Great Pyramid wasn't just a line to the stars. Its very dimensions encoded astronomical knowledge. The pyramid's base perimeter in pyramid inches supposedly equals the number of days in a year multiplied by 100. The internal passage angles allegedly correspond to important astronomical sight lines. While many of these claims are speculative and controversial, what's certain is that the ancient architects possessed sophisticated knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, knowledge they considered sacred and encoded in their most important monuments. Now let's journey across the Atlantic to the pyramids of Mesoamerica, where we find equally sophisticated astronomical alignments developed completely independently from Egyptian traditions. The Great Pyramid city of Teotihuacan in Mexico, built around 100 CE, is laid out according to precise astronomical principles. The entire city is oriented 15.5 degrees east of true north, not a random choice, but a deliberate alignment. On August 12th and April 29th each year, the sun sets directly in front of the main avenue called the Avenue of the Dead, which runs through the city's centre. Why these dates? They're separated by approximately 260 days, the length of the Mesoamerican ritual calendar, the Tzolk'in. This wasn't just religious symbolism, it was a massive calendrical instrument built into the urban plan itself. The Pyramid of the Sun, Teotihuacan's largest structure, has its own astronomical alignments. On the spring equinox, the sun sets directly opposite the pyramid's western face, and ancient observers noted that this marked the beginning of the agricultural year. But there's something more. The pyramid sits atop a cave that extends 100 meters underground, ending in a 4-chambered space. Some researchers believe this cave represented the place of cosmic origin in Mesoamerican mythology, and the pyramid above it served as an axis mundi, a connection point between the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. Moving to the Mayan world, we encounter the famous pyramid at Chichen Itza, known as El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan. This pyramid is essentially a 3-dimensional calendar. It has 91 steps on each of its 4 sides, totaling 364, plus the top platform makes 365, the days of the solar year. Each face has 52 panels, corresponding to the 52-year calendar round that we discussed in the Flood Myths video. But the most spectacular alignment occurs during the equinoxes. As the sun sets, the angle of light creates a shadow pattern on the northern staircase that looks exactly like a serpent descending from the heavens. This serpent shadow perfectly aligns with the carved serpent heads at the base of the staircase. Thousands of people gather twice a year to witness this phenomenon, which the ancient Maya designed into the structure over 1,000 years ago. The Maya were obsessed with Venus. They tracked its cycles with extraordinary precision, recording its movements in texts like the Dresden Codex. Venus has a cycle of approximately 584 days, and the Maya calculated this cycle to within hours of our modern astronomical measurements, all without telescopes. Multiple Mayan structures are aligned to Venus's maximum elongations, the points in its orbit when it appears farthest from the sun in the sky. The governor's palace at Uxmal, for instance, is aligned to the southern maximum elongation of Venus as it appeared around 750 CE. The Caracol at Chichen Itza is even more remarkable. This circular structure is clearly an astronomical observatory with windows and sightlines aligned to multiple astronomical events. The equinoxes, the setting points of Venus at its maximum elongations, and various star and planet positions. The Maya achieved something extraordinary. They predicted solar eclipses, calculated the Venus cycle, tracked Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and developed a calendar system so accurate that it didn't require correction for thousands of years. All of this astronomical knowledge was encoded in their pyramid architecture and urban planning. While Egyptian and Mesoamerican pyramids dominate popular consciousness, pyramid structures exist across Asia with equally intriguing astronomical alignments. China has dozens of pyramid-shaped mounds, primarily in Shanxi province near Xi'an. These structures have been largely ignored by Western archaeology, and the Chinese government has restricted access to many of them. What we do know is fascinating. The White Pyramid, one of the largest, is reportedly oriented to the cardinal directions with the same precision we see at Giza. German researcher Hartwig Hausdorff, who photographed several Chinese pyramids in the 1990s, noted that they appear to be arranged in patterns that might correspond to constellations, similar to Beauval's Orion correlation theory. The mausoleum of the first Qin emperor, which houses the famous terracotta army, is itself a pyramid-shaped structure carefully oriented to the cardinal directions. Ancient Chinese texts describe elaborate astronomical instruments and celestial observations conducted during the Qin dynasty, suggesting these structures had astronomical functions. Cambodia's Angkor Wat, while not pyramidal in the Egyptian sense, is a massive temple complex built as a symbolic mountain with astronomical alignments throughout. The entire complex is oriented to the spring equinox. On this day, the sun rises directly above the central tower when viewed from the western entrance, creating a spectacular sight. The temple's architecture encodes astronomical and mathematical knowledge. The distances between various structures correspond to cycles of the moon and planets. The bas-reliefs include depictions that some researchers interpret as astronomical observations, including what might be a supernova that appeared in 1054 CE. Indonesia's Borobudur, built in the 9th century CE, is the world's largest Buddhist monument and incorporates astronomical alignments in its mandala-like structure. The monument is aligned to the cardinal directions, and at certain times of year, the sun creates specific lighting effects that illuminate particular Buddha statues in sequence. The structure has 504 Buddha statues arranged in specific patterns, and this number has significance in Buddhist numerology and cosmology. The monument itself represents the Buddhist cosmological universe, with its lower levels depicting the realm of desire, middle levels showing the realm of form, and upper levels representing the formless realm. Here's where the numerological patterns become interesting. Across all these Asian pyramids and pyramid-like structures, we find repeating numbers: 108, 432, 360, and their multiples. These aren't random. The number 108 is sacred in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. It appears in prayer beads, architectural measurements, and ritual practices. From an astronomical perspective, 108 has remarkable properties. The distance from Earth to the Sun is approximately 108 times the Sun's diameter, and the distance from Earth to the Moon is approximately 108 times the Moon's diameter. The number 432 and its multiples appear in many traditions. There are 432,000 years in the Hindu Kali Yuga, and 432 is closely related to the precession of the equinoxes. The precession completes one full cycle in approximately 25,920 years, and 25,920 divided by 60 equals 432. A text from the early 20th century, Sacred Geometry and Spiritual Science, collected by various esoteric scholars, argued that these numbers weren't coincidental, but represented an ancient scientific language, a way of encoding astronomical cycles, planetary periods, and cosmic rhythms in architecture and ritual. According to this interpretation, understanding these numerical patterns was essential for advanced astrological practice, as they revealed harmonic relationships between earthly structures and celestial movements. Now let's dive deeper into the numerological patterns that appear in pyramid structures worldwide, and what they might reveal about ancient astronomical knowledge. The Great Pyramid's dimensions provide a treasure trove of mathematical relationships. Its base length is 440 royal cubits, its height 280 royal cubits. The ratio 440.2280 reduces to 11.7, which is remarkably close to the approximation of 2p to pi. Whether this was intentional or coincidental remains debated, but the precision is striking. The royal cubit itself, approximately 52.36 centimeters, appears to be derived from astronomical measurements. Some researchers have proposed it's based on the Earth's dimensions, specifically a fraction of the polar radius. Others suggest it's derived from the human body's proportions, which themselves reflect golden ratio relationships. Multiple researchers have identified what they call precessional numbers, encoded in pyramid structures. The precession of the equinoxes, that 26,000-year cycle, can be divided into 12 ages of approximately 2,160 years each, the astrological ages. This number, 2,160, and its multiples appear in various pyramid dimensions and astronomical alignments. The Great Pyramid's perimeter is 1,760 royal cubits. Multiply this by 4 for 32, and you get 760,320, a number very close to the number of arcseconds in a circle divided by 10. These mathematical relationships led some researchers, including the authors of texts like The Dimensions of Paradise by John Michel, to propose that ancient architects possessed sophisticated mathematical knowledge that they encoded in their most sacred structures. The so-called sacred numbers that appear in ancient architecture and mythology often correspond to astronomical cycles. 2 to 60, the Mesoamerican Tzolk'in calendar, but also close to the human gestation period of 266 days. Some researchers note this is near Venus's inferior conjunction period. 3 and 60, the idealized year used in many ancient calendar systems, divided into 12 months of 30 days. While the actual year is 365.25 days, 360 provides a mathematically convenient approximation that divides evenly many ways. 432 and 108. As mentioned, these relate to precessional calculations and astronomical measurements. 72, the number of years it takes for the equinox point to move 1 degree along the ecliptic due to precession. Also, the Great Pyramid's original entrance was at 72 feet above ground level. Several historical texts on numerology and sacred architecture have attempted to explain these patterns. The Canon by William Stirling, published in 1897, proposed that ancient temples encoded what he called cosmic canons, mathematical relationships that reflected celestial harmonies. A related work, Numbers, Their Occult Power and Mystic Virtues, by Wynne Westcott, collected traditions about sacred numbers from various cultures and attempted to identify common patterns. The text suggests that ancient initiates believed understanding these numerical relationships was essential for what they called celestial magic, the practice of timing rituals and making predictions based on cosmic cycles. For astrological practitioners, these texts proposed that meditating on these sacred numbers and their architectural embodiments could attune one's consciousness to cosmic rhythms, supposedly improving astrological intuition and timing. The pyramids in this interpretation weren't just observatories, but instruments for achieving harmonic resonance with celestial forces. Now, it's important to note that many of these numerological interpretations are speculative. Critics point out that with enough mathematical manipulation, you can find almost any number you're looking for in any large structure. This phenomenon, called pyramidology, has been criticized as seeing patterns where none exist. However, what remains undeniable is that ancient architects deliberately incorporated mathematical proportions and astronomical alignments in their structures. Whether they also encoded deeper layers of astronomical data through numerology is a question that remains open to investigation. Now we arrive at the controversial question: were pyramids simply elaborate astronomical instruments and calendars, timekeepers, or could they have served more exotic functions? The Stargate hypothesis, popularized by alternative researchers and science fiction, proposes that pyramids might have functioned as energy focal points, interdimensional portals, or communication devices for contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Let's examine the claims and the evidence. Some researchers point to the electromagnetic properties of the Great Pyramid. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Applied Physics found that the Great Pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers and beneath its base. The researchers weren't claiming any mystical properties, just documenting an interesting physical phenomenon based on the pyramid's shape and the limestone's properties. Alternative researchers have taken this further, claiming the pyramid might have functioned as a power generator or energy transmitter. They point to the granite inside the king's chamber, which contains quartz crystals that have piezoelectric properties, meaning they generate electricity under pressure. Combined with the pyramid's electromagnetic properties, they argue it might have been designed to harness or focus energy. Some have drawn parallels to Nikola Tesla's theories about wireless energy transmission and his proposed world system for broadcasting electricity. They note that the Great Pyramid sits near the center of Earth's landmass. Much as Tesla wanted to position his Wardenclyffe Tower at an optimal location for global transmission, the most exotic theories propose the pyramids were Stargates, devices for interdimensional travel, time manipulation, or communication across vast cosmic distances. These theories are based more on metaphysical speculation than physical evidence. Now we arrive at the controversial question: were pyramids simply elaborate astronomical instruments and calendars, timekeepers, or could they have served more exotic functions? The Stargate hypothesis, popularized by alternative researchers and science fiction, proposes that pyramids might have functioned as energy focal points, interdimensional portals, or communication devices for contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Mainstream archaeology and physics offer a more grounded interpretation. The pyramids were sophisticated astronomical observatories and calendrical instruments built by highly knowledgeable but entirely human architects. The alignments we've discussed served practical purposes. Calendar keeping. By tracking solstices, equinoxes, and stellar risings, ancient peoples could maintain accurate calendars essential for agriculture, religious festivals, and civic administration. Timekeeping. The pyramid's shadows could mark hours and seasons. The position of stars viewed from specific locations within the structures could indicate night hours and seasonal changes. Religious function. In Egyptian theology, the pyramids facilitated the pharaoh's ascension to the stars. The astronomical alignments weren't just practical, they were sacred, connecting earthly rulers with cosmic powers, knowledge preservation. By encoding astronomical data in enduring stone monuments, ancient cultures created reference points that would outlast any written record or oral tradition. The field of archaeoastronomy, which studies ancient astronomical practices, has documented hundreds of structures worldwide with celestial alignments. From Stonehenge to Newgrange, from the sun temples of Peru to the astronomical ceiling of Senenmut's tomb, ancient peoples devoted enormous resources to tracking and commemorating celestial events. This wasn't because they had supernatural technology, it was because astronomy was essential to their survival and integral to their worldview. The heavens were where the gods dwelled, where the seasons were born, and where the dead travelled after life. Understanding the cosmos was understanding existence itself. Here's what's truly remarkable. Ancient astronomers, working with naked-eye observations and simple instruments, achieved accuracies that impress modern scientists. They did this through patient, multi-generational observation and by building their knowledge into structures that could serve as perpetual references. Were they stargates? Almost certainly not in any literal sense. Were they timekeepers? Absolutely, and magnificent ones at that. But they were more than just clocks or calendars. They were manifestations of cosmic knowledge, bridges between earth and heaven, and testaments to human ingenuity and persistence. The real magic isn't in imagined portals to other dimensions. It's in the fact that humans, thousands of years ago with supposedly primitive tools, achieved mathematical and astronomical precision that still awes us today. So, Stargates or Timekeepers? The evidence overwhelmingly supports the latter, though perhaps we should add another category: temples, tombs, and testaments to human achievement. The astronomical alignments we've explored aren't evidence of lost ancient technology or extraterrestrial influence. They're evidence of something equally extraordinary: the power of human observation, mathematical reasoning, and generational knowledge accumulation. Ancient peoples looked up at the same stars we see tonight. They noticed patterns, tracked cycles, made predictions, and tested them over decades and centuries. They developed sophisticated mathematical systems, engineering techniques, and astronomical knowledge. All without computers, without telescopes, without any of the tools we consider essential to modern science. They built this knowledge into stone monuments that have endured for millennia, encoding their understanding in alignments, proportions, and measurements. Whether they also embedded deeper numerological patterns, cosmic harmonics that reflect fundamental relationships between earthly and celestial cycles, remains a fascinating question. For modern practitioners of astrology or anyone studying ancient astronomical wisdom, these monuments offer profound insights. They demonstrate that our ancestors took cosmic cycles seriously, dedicated enormous resources to tracking them, and believed deeply in the connection between celestial movements and earthly affairs. The numerological patterns we've discussed, whether you view them as mystical keys or as mnemonic devices for astronomical data, reveal sophisticated thinking about cycles, proportions, and cosmic harmonies. Understanding these patterns provides a window into ancient consciousness and cosmology. The pyramids stand as bridges across time, connecting us to the humans who built them. People who looked up at the night sky with wonder, developed systematic ways to understand what they saw, and built monuments that would carry their knowledge forward to us, their distant descendants. They weren't stargates to other dimensions. They were, in a sense, time machines, devices for capturing and transmitting knowledge across the ages. And in that sense, they achieved something perhaps more miraculous than any science fiction portal. They made their builders immortal. Thanks for watching this exploration of pyramid alignments and ancient astronomical knowledge. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content on ancient and medieval history from around the world. What's your take on pyramid alignments, ancient astronomical genius, or something more mysterious? Let me know in the comments below, and if you've visited any of these pyramid sites and witnessed their astronomical alignments firsthand, I'd love to hear about your experience. I've included academic sources on archaeoastronomy, as well as references to the historical numerological texts we discussed in the description below. Remember to approach the more speculative claims with critical thinking, but don't let skepticism blind you to the genuine wonders of ancient astronomical achievement. Until next time, keep looking up and keep exploring the ancient world.